All right, Algebra 2, Chapter 9, Section 6 review. This is going to be page 514. So let's get going. All right, number 22. Looks like a distance rate problem. So let's zoom in a little bit. Oop. Carlos can travel 40 miles. So we got distance, rate, and time. All right, Carlos can travel 40 miles on his motorbike in the same time it takes Paul to go 15 miles on his bike. We know Carlos's rate is 20 miles, or it says Paul's rate is 20 miles slower. So the rate of Carlos equals Paul's rate plus 20. So all we got to do is find the rates. So Carlos's rate is just distance over time, so it's going to be 40 over t. Paul's rate, same thing, so it's just going to be 15 over t. So now we just insert. Carlos's rate is 40 over t. Paul's rate's 15 over t plus 20. LCD, multiply everything by 20 across the, or t across the board, so we get 40 equals 15 plus 20t. Subtract 15, I get 25 equals 20t. So t equals 1.25 hours. So let's look at Carlos. So Carlos's rate is 40 over t, which would be 40 over 1.25. Get our handy dandy calculator out for that. 40 divided by 1.25 equals 32. So Carlos's rate is 32. Well, we know the rate of Paul is 20 less, so his would be 12, and all these would be in miles per hour. You could have plugged in the rate for Paul as well and solved it. Okay, Carlos's rate's 32, Paul's rate's 12. Number 22 is done. Doing 23 now. A passenger train, so again it looks like distance, rate, and time. A passenger train travels 392 miles. The same time it takes a freight train to travel 322 miles. If the passenger train is 20 miles an hour faster than the freight train, find the rate for both. Well, we know they travel the same time. So the rate for the passenger train is 392 over t. The rate of the freight train is 332 over t. So let's get down here. So the passenger train rate, 392 over t, is equal to 20 plus the freight rate, which is 322 over t. Multiply everything by t. So I get 392 equals 20t plus 322. Subtract 322, let's solve for t. So I get 70 equals 20t. Divide each side by 20. We get t equals 7 over 2 or 3.5. So our time is 3.5 hours. So we can find our rate. So the passenger train's rate is 392 over 3.5, which would be 392 divided by 3.5 equals 112. So that's 112 miles per hour. Well, the freight train's rate we know is 20 miles an hour slower, so we can just say 112 minus 20, and that's 92 miles an hour. Easy enough? Okay, next one, 24. Okay, this is a time rate problem. This is a work problem. So I have Shelly. She can paint a fence in 8 hours. Karen can do it in 4 hours. Together, how long would it take them? So together take them x hours. So what's Shelly's rate? 1 over 8. What's Karen's rate? Well, 1 over 4. What's the combined rate? 1 over x. So if we add the rates together, we can get the combined rate. So we can say 1 over 8 plus 1 over 4 equals 1 over x. So multiply everything by 8x. So I'm going to get x plus 2x equals 8. 3x equals 8. X equals 8 over 3. So that is 2 2/3 hours. All right, next problem. Okay, one pump can fill a tank with oil in 4 hours. So this is number 25. So pump number 1, okay, we got a time and rate. He can fill oil in 4 hours. Pump number 2 can do it in 3 hours. If both pumps work together, how long will it take? X. So the rate of pump 1, he can fill it up in 1 over 4. The rate of pump 2 is 1 over 3. The rate together is 1 over x. Same concept. Add the rates together. So 1 over 4 plus 1 over 3 equals 1 over x. Multiply everything by 12x. That's the LCD. So it's going to be 3x plus 4x equals 12. 7x equals 12. X equals 12 over 7, which would be 1 5/7 hours. See how we're putting rate and time together now? All right, next problem. 33. On the first 4 tests, you average an 84. So 4 tests, you average an 84. You think you can score a 96 on the rest of the tests. How many tests do you need to bring up your grade to a 90? So our total would be this. So we know we have 4 tests at 84, x tests at 96. So a total sum of tests would be 4 plus x for an average of 90. So I can just do the laws of average here. I can just say these two numbers times each other plus the product of these two numbers has to equal the product of those two numbers. And we know that just because that's based on averages. Alright, so I can say 4 times 84 plus 96x is going to equal 90 times 4 plus x. So 4 times 84 336. So 336 plus 96x equals 360 plus 90x. Now we just simplify. Subtract 90x to each side. And let's subtract 336 while we're at it. So that's going to be 6x equals 24. Divide each side by 6, x equals 4. So you have to get 4 more tests at 96 to average a 90, which by looking at that, that would make sense. Okay, next problem. 34. You are planning a school field trip to a local theater. It costs $60 for the bus. And then it costs $5.50 per ticket. Write a function, the c of x, to find the cost per student. Okay, well, it's going to cost $60 regardless, plus each student has to buy a ticket at $5.50, so that'd be $5.50x. And to find the cost per student, we're just going to divide it by x. So that's part A. Part B, find out if we want the cost to be $10 or less per student. How do we find it? So we just set the cost per student equal to 10. So 10 equals 60 plus 5.50x over x. Multiply each side by x. Now we're just solving. So I got 10x equals 60 plus 5.50x. Subtract 5.5x to each side. So I'm going to get 4.5x equals 60. So x is going to equal 60 divided by 4.5, which is 13.33. Well, we're talking about people here, so we need to have at least 14 people show up. All right. Next problem. 57. A salesman, okay, this looks like a distance, rate, and time problem. A salesman drove from his home to a city. So he drove to the city at a speed of 40 miles an hour. He came back home at a rate of 50 miles an hour. What was his average speed? All right, well, let's look at this real quick. Well, what was his distance? We'll just call it D both ways, the same distance. So his time was distance over 40 to the city. His time coming home was distance over 50. Okay? So what was his total distance? 2D, right? What was his total time? D over 40 plus D over 50. So to find the rate, which we do not know, we can just have a product right there. 2D equals R, the rate we're trying to find, times the sum of the distances. Okay, so let's rewrite this a little bit nicer. So it's going to be our sum of our distance, 2D, equals our rate times D over 40. I'm just repeating what we just did, D over 50. So what could I multiply these two by? Or really, what could I multiply everything by across the board to get rid of the denominators? Well, 200 seems to work, so let's multiply everything by 200. So that's going to be 400D, which equals R times, I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 200, 5D plus 4D. So I get 400D equals R times 9D. So divide each side by 9D so we can get our rate. So we get 400 over 9 equals our rate. So our rate is 44.44, and that's going to be in miles per hour. All right. Last question. This one's kind of a think about it deal. 58. An average pitching machine can pitch its baseballs in 1.25 hours. All right. It can empty the cage. It takes an attendant, it takes a person 3.5 hours to pick up after one machine. At least how many attendants must we have working at the same rate to pick up the baseballs from 10 machines that are retrieved in less than 8 hours? Okay, so we need to be done in 8 hours. And we have 10 machines. And we have X people. All right. We have a rate too. You could do that if you wanted to. But here's what we know. We know one person, it takes 3.5 hours to do one machine. So picking one person, how long would it take them to do 10 machines? So if it took 3.5 hours per machine, how many machines are we trying to pick up? 10 machines. So 3.5 times 10 would be 35 hours. So it would be 35 man hours is how you'd look at it. So to do the job, it would have 35 man hours. Well, we have to get it done in 8 hours. So, and we have X people. So let's divide each side by this equation by 8. And we get X equals 35 over 8. And the units, if you look at it, would actually be man or people. So 35 divided by 8. Okay, would be 4 3/8 really. Well, you can't have 4 3/8 people, so you better hire 5 people. Okay? And that is it for this section. I would suggest you do some of the other review problems because we didn't do a lot of cross multiplication. I just want to make sure you guys get the gist on solving word problems. The other review has the other ones.